Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be solving multi-step equations. For our vocabulary terms, we're going to be using inverse operations, which are operations that undo each other, and we're going to be using the distributive property. So that's where we are multiplying each addend separately and then adding the products. Let's take a look at practice problem number 1. We have 3 parentheses 2 plus 8p parentheses equals negative 90. So I'm going to use the distributive property in order for us to multiply. I'm going to draw my arrows because the number on the outside is going to be multiplied times everything on the inside. So 3 times 2 equals 6. And then 3 times a positive 8p, my answer is a positive 24p. I'm going to bring down the rest of my equation, so it's going to be equal to a negative 90. Now I can start using inverse operations to isolate my variable. So first I'm going to get rid of this positive 6. So the inverse of having a positive 6 would be to subtract 6 on both sides of my equal sign, making sure that we keep our equation balanced. 6 minus 6 becomes 0, so I can cancel that out, and I'm going to bring down the rest of what I have. So 24p is equal to, and then I have a negative 90 minus 6. Both of these signs are negative, so I'm going to have an answer of negative 96. Reading this all together, 24 times p is equal to negative 96. So the inverse operation of multiplication would be to divide. 24 divided by 24 gives us 1. So p is by itself. And a negative 96 divided by a positive 24 is going to give me negative 4. Let's try practice problem number 2. We have negative 7 parentheses 1 minus 4k parentheses plus 3 equals 164. I'm going to draw my arrows because I see we have to distribute. So we're multiplying. Negative 7 times a positive 1 equals negative 7. And a negative 7 times a negative 4k is going to equal a positive 28k. I'm just going to bring down the rest of my equation. Plus 3 equals 164. Before I start using inverse operations, I can actually simplify by combining like terms. Negative 7 and positive 3 both do not have any variables, so they can be combined and rewritten as negative 4. I'm going to bring down my positive 28k is equal to 164. Now I can begin to isolate my variable and use inverse operations. So to make my negative 4 go away, I'm going to use the opposite, which is to add 4 on both sides of my equal sign. A negative 4 and a positive 4 make 0, so this cancels out. And I can bring down my 28k is equal to 168. Now my equation says 28 times k is equal to 168. I'm going to divide on both sides. 28 divided by 28 equals 1. So now k is by itself. And a positive 168 divided by a positive 28, my answer equals 6. Let's do one more practice problem together. Here I have to use the distributive property twice. So we have 3 parentheses, 7 minus 3x parentheses, plus 8 parentheses, 2 minus 2x parentheses equals 12. So I'm going to start by drawing my arrows. We have a positive 3 times positive 7, so my answer is 21. We have a positive 3 times a negative 3x, so my answer is a negative 9x. Moving on to my positive 8, we're going to distribute that number to everything inside of these parentheses. So positive 8 times a positive 2, my answer is a positive 16. And a positive 8 times a negative 2x, my answer is a negative 16x. I bring down the rest of my equation, so this is all equal to 12. I see I have a lot of terms in this equation, so before I start to use inverse operations, I want to combine my like terms. So I'm going to put a box around my number that has a variable. These are my coefficients and my constants, my numbers that are all by themselves. So a positive 21 can be combined with a positive 16, and that equals a positive 37. And my negative 9x, notice how I put a box around that minus sign because the sign goes along with the number. So negative 9x and a negative 16x can be combined and written as negative 25x. Bringing down my equal sign and the number 12. I'm going to use inverse operations next. If I have a positive 37, that means I need to subtract by 37 on both sides of the equal sign, keeping it balanced. 37 minus 37 equals 0, so now this goes away, and I'm left with negative 25x is equal to, and here I have a positive 12 minus 37. So when these two numbers subtract, I get negative 25. I'm going to use inverse operations to divide. I'm dividing by negative 25 on both sides. Negative 25 divided by negative 25 on the left side of my equal sign. This equals a positive 1, so x is by itself. And I actually have the same division problem on the other side of the equal sign. So negative 25 divided by negative 25 equals a positive 1. So x is equal to positive 1. Try practice problem number 4 on your own. Negative 4 parentheses negative 6v plus 5 parentheses equals negative 188. I'm going to draw my arrows because I know I have to distribute. The number on the outside of my parentheses is going to be multiplied by each term on the inside of my parentheses. So negative 4 times a negative 6v is going to equal a positive 24. And a negative 4 times a positive 5 is going to equal negative 20. I'm going to bring down my equal sign and rewrite the rest of my equation. Now I can use inverse operations to solve. I'm going to add 20 on both sides of my equal sign, keeping it balanced. Negative 20 and positive 20 create 0, so I successfully got rid of this term, and I can bring everything else down. 24v is equal to, and here I have a negative 188 plus 20. These are different signs, so I know my numbers are going to subtract. So 188 minus 20 is equal to 168. And I'm going to keep the sign of whatever number was bigger. So I have more negatives, so my answer is going to stay negative. 24 times v equals negative 168. I'm going to divide by 24 on both sides. 24 divided by 24 is equal to 1, so v is now by itself. And negative 168 divided by positive 24, a negative divided by a positive is equal to a negative. And my answer is negative 7. Let's look at one last example problem, and I want you to try it on your own. You have 4 parentheses 7x plus 1 parentheses plus 6 parentheses negative 2x plus 5 parentheses equals 50. We're going to start by drawing our arrows to represent that we are distributing. We're going to multiply that number on the outside times all of the terms on the inside. So 4 multiplied by 7x is equal to a positive 28x. 4 times a positive 1 is equal to a positive 4. Going to the next part of my equation, I'm going to do it like normal. So a positive 6 times a negative 2x is equal to a negative 12x. So notice how I just keep writing my terms. And a positive 6 times a positive 5 is equal to a positive 30. I bring down my equal sign and my 50. Before I'm able to use inverse operations, I want to combine my like terms. So I'm going to look for all of my terms that have a variable. I see I have 28x, and I also have a negative 12x. Those can be combined. And I also have a positive 4, and I have a positive 30. So let's rewrite these terms. 28x minus 12x is the same as 16x. And a positive 4 and a positive 30, that can be rewritten as a positive 34. We're just combining our terms that either have a variable or they don't have a variable. Whatever is alike. Now we have 16x plus 34 equals 50. I'm going to subtract by 34 on both sides of my equal sign, keeping the equation balanced. (34 minus 34 equals 0, so this goes away, and I'm left with 16x is equal to, now I solve 50 minus 34, which is equal to 16. We have 16x equals 16. I divide on both sides to get my variable isolated to get x by itself, and x is equal to positive 1.